Don't wake daddy, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. A lot of don'ts when it comes to parenting. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with, well, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. This is the original, because there is a new version that came out this year. This is the original we're talking about. I can only guess that the babysitter dies and the kids, I guess, are trying to hide it. Like, what else am I supposed to take from this title? It kind of has like a very Goosebumps feel to the title. To where I'm kind of wondering if this is not Goosebumps, but I'm wondering if this is a like made for TV kind of thing. Because have seen those a lot back in the day, especially on like Disney Channel, where they'll have like silly names like that for things. Like My Life as a Mermaid or something like that. Stuff like that. Titles where it's kind of goofy and silly and gives you the basic premise of the movie in the title. Um, it gives me those vibes for sure. But also, again, it does still remind me of a Goosebumps title as well. So I don't know what to expect. I I think this movie's PG-13. I don't think it's R. So I don't think it's going to be like anything super intense, obviously. But I don't know. There might be some scares in it. I don't know what to expect. I don't know who's going to be in this. I don't know what it's otherwise about. I, I guess the only thing to do is to check it out. This is a donation reward for Venom, though. So thank you, as always, Venom, for your continued support. Um, I guess at this point, let's just check it out and see how the babysitter died. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with two on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. We have gaming content as well on our secondary channel, Princess of Gaming. Every single day we upload parts of Baldur's Gate 3, and every other day is Horizon Forbidden West. But on Saturdays we also get to Nier Automata. Don't forget to click the link in the description for today's reaction. I redirect everything on the channel just because of copyright. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click that like button. It helps out the channel and allows me to get more of this awesome content to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get on with today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this movie is complicated for me. Before we begin talking about it, though, I do want to mention there is the 2024 one that had just come out and everything. Apparently, cast members from this movie do appear in the remake. And the story is pretty much the same from what I've gathered. So that's pretty interesting in and of itself. When looking this up, though, when looking up this specific version of the movie, I found that this movie is actually a cult movie. It wasn't received well upon release, and it has since become more of a cult hit, with fans resonating with themes like the themes of second chances and this teenage girl kind of like figuring her life out through these zany adventures and stuff like that, this craziness that happens. And I can see that, and I can see why people really like this. I'm mixed on it. Because here's the thing. When you go into a movie called Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, it does sort of lead to a certain expectation. that the film is going to be about trying to hide the death of a babysitter. So you have a babysitter who comes in, the babysitter dies, and you're trying to hide the death and, like, probably fake that she's still alive and all. This would imply stuff like, doing a funny voice on a phone call, doing some shadow puppetry or something. They could go full dark comedy with it even, and like puppet around the dead body, using like silhouettes and shadows and stuff to try and make people think that she's still moving around and all. There's a lot of different ideas they could do with the idea of keeping this secret. Instead, they just completely forget about that for most of the film. Most of the movie is like the consequences of that, the follow-up to the babysitter, or from the babysitter's death, but has nothing to do with it. The entire babysitter dying thing is at the very beginning of the film and is brought back at the very end as like a little, oh, like, don't you remember? That's what this movie was supposed to be about. The entire middle portion of this felt like a different film. And the thing is, it could have worked without the babysitter dying aspect. That part felt completely needless to the rest of the movie. You have a teenage girl, 17 years old, just out of high school, possibly prepping for college, but unsure about it. And she has to get a job for 2 months during the summer to take care of her siblings while her mom is away on a trip. Easily could work on its own. You don't need the entire babysitter comes in and dies like within the course of 2 minutes of screen time. Like, seriously, she comes in, she's all nice and friendly. Mother leaves, she's a drill sergeant. Sees the brother's room and has a heart attack and dies. She had such little influence on this film, other than the fact that, her death and the money, being on her body when she was delivered to the mortuary, being the root cause of why Sue-Ann needed to get a job. Other than that, like, it has nothing to do with the rest of the film. Why was it there? Well, and the movie's named after it. That's literally the title of the film. Yet, there's so many other names you could have given to this movie that would have made so much more sense. Anything relating to the fashion stuff would have made more sense. The movie in some ways reminds me of the film Adventures in Babysitting, which is a great film, by the way. Very underrated. But this movie also seems like it doesn't quite know what it wants to do at times. It's very hectic and chaotic, and I think the problem is there's too many moving parts. There's, for one, too many kids. Sue-Ann has way too many siblings. Like, from what we know, like, their parents are divorced. The father is not in the picture at all. When they even bring him up about, like, calling him for help, it's like he doesn't care about us. So it's like, you have a single mother raising 5 kids on her own. I mean, I can see why she needed the vacation, but, like, I feel like that's a little bit much. Like, I understand the idea is, like, you're supposed to show how chaotic this home life is, and how it's kind of one of the big reasons why Sue-Ann has to get a job, as well as the fact that Sue-Ann kind of pulling everything together and making it, better in the end is a big deal. It's a big task. You could have done that with her having 1 or 2 other siblings. I'll say 2 because I feel like Kenny needed to be there. Kenny was a great foil for her. and just a really good character who had some pretty good growth, honestly. And then one of the younger kids. That's all. There did not need to be five kids. Because everything that all three of the younger kids did could have been done by one younger kid. Like stealing the money and everything, for example. Um, Climbing the roof and everything to try to fix the antenna. All of that could have been done by the same kid. And everything else, of course. It just felt like there were too many kids to keep track of. And honestly, the only one I even remember the name of besides Suhan is Kenny. And only because his name was like made a point of multiple times. The one younger kid, for example, who has the girlfriend, it's like you're 10 years old. And the one he gives the diamond to and everything, that plot line was completely irrelevant. It had no reason to be in this film, and it was just a waste of time. Why was that there? It led to nothing. But it's like, seriously, it just... On top of that, you have the fact that she starts... she gets this job at first at this kind of fast food place. It's a weird situation. It's one of those type of restaurants that doesn't really exist in real life, but all these all these movies have had these kind of restaurants in it, and I have like never heard of anything like that in real life. But it's like she gets the job there where she meets Brian. You have her relationship with Brian from there. You have the new place, the fashion place, where she has a relationship with Rose. She has this creepy skeezy guy hitting on her. She has the secretary and this other employee trying to get her fired. You have all of this other stuff going on. You have her having to deal with Kenny and his friends, and it's just like there's just so many moving parts to this film. It's hard to keep track of it all, and it's hard to like focus. And a lot of the time, it feels like it feels like if ADHD were a film. Honestly, it's just you have to constantly switch back and forth between these different plot points, and there's just so much going on. It's confusing. It's hard to keep track of, and it's going. That was another thing I noticed very early on. The movie just like goes. It's so fast paced, constantly moving at all times. And it feels like exhausting, honestly. Like watching this, I'm just like tired. Seriously. Because it's just go, go, go. It doesn't give you any time to really breathe or just take a moment. And it's wild. It's just it's so wild for that. But it makes it hard to enjoy as much as I feel like you could if it actually gave you time to take stuff in. And the problem with the pacing as well is that it keeps certain jokes from being able to work, because some jokes you need to have proper pacing for. Timing is important when it comes to comedy. And so if you're going to be like, having your movie be a comedy, you have to make sure the timing works right. Otherwise, it's not going to be funny. And this movie was very hit and miss. There were some things that were genuinely funny, and some things that were just not. There were also some aspects that were satisfying, and some that were not. I don't like that pretty much everything went well in the end until, like, the reveal of the, oh, where's the babysitter, by the way, thing. I feel like some stuff should have, like, ended out a little more poorly. Honestly, I would have been fine if the relationship wasn't mended, for example. Or even if, like, Brian had said, like, something along the lines of, I'm willing to give you another chance, but we have to work on that. And there was no kiss or anything like that. I think he forgave her way too easily. Um, I would have also been fine if Rose had like just been disgusted by what Suan did, but instead she's okay with it, seemingly just because it worked out for the investors and all. And on top of that, it's like it's so unsatisfying that I know what the idea is supposed to be here. Um, but Sue-Ann rejecting the job offer is so exceptionally unsatisfying. And her response is like, I think I'm going to go to college, maybe study to go into fashion. It's like, I have a lot I need to learn still. It's like, bitch, you are being offered an amazing job. You are being offered an amazing job that's going to pay extremely well right out of high school with absolutely no prerequisite uh, studies needed. Let's just say studies. I couldn't think of the word I was trying to think of. It's like you are being offered this amazing job. You are in such a good position. You don't need to go to college. Not to mention, you proved that you have amazing ideas when it comes to fashion. Yeah, there's still stuff you could learn. But why deny the job? Why deny such a great opportunity? You can study stuff. You can you could even go to college part-time while you're doing this. You can do both, believe it or not. I understand if she doesn't want to because she wants her free time and all. That's great. That's fine. That's fair. But it's like her choosing to not accept that felt so unsatisfying. And I'm saying this as a movie in terms of the writing and everything too. It would have felt like it mattered more if she had accepted that and realized it's like I could make a name for myself because I'm worth it, because I'm good at this. And it would make it feel like everything that happened in this, mattered. And yeah, you could say like, "Oh, but isn't that kind of like forcing this idea that um that anyone can do anything if it's just handed to them?" And it's like, yes, but you do realize college doesn't actually help as much as you think it does, right? A lot of people go to college, get degrees, and still can't find jobs in their fields. It's like it's not a better situation. If someone offers you an extremely well-paying job for nothing, take it. Absolutely take it. That was so unsatisfying. But this movie, when did this come out? The 80s? Let me check real quick. 1991, so equivalent enough. Close enough to the 80s. But that is definitely still a time period, the 90s, where they really pushed this idea of um, like earning everything you get and working for what you receive. This idea that if you work hard, you're going to get you're going to get everything you deserve. You're going to do well. Working hard is going to help you like have a great life and a good paying job and stuff. And it's like, yeah, maybe back in like the 60s or something. It's like this is not actually a good advice. It's really not, because the entire idea of like work hard and you'll get a good job, it's just not realistic anymore. The hardest workers aren't the ones getting the jobs. It's the people who are being just given the jobs. And it's not fair. Absolutely not fair. But again, if you're offered a high paying job that you can use to take care of yourself and a family, fucking take it. Yeah, it's not fair. Yeah, it's, you could say it's wrong in a lot of ways. But listen, that if you're basically being offered free money, take it. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, as long as you're not like being a bad person, it's like, come on. And she learned her lesson. It's not like she would have to deal with a lot of the bad shit she had done again. She learned from her mistakes here. It's just, it's so unsatisfying because so many of us either work so hard in our lives to try and get somewhere and just end up nowhere because that's not a valid thing anymore. Or, you know, can't work because of various reasons such as mental and physical health and stuff, and are just screwed because we don't have any options. And so it's like, again, if someone offered me a job like that, I don't care if I wasn't the most knowledgeable. I'd take it in a heartbeat. Like that. Because thinking practically, that would be so actively needed. Like, I don't know what the conversion rate is, but for how much she makes, like, a paycheck normally. Like, she was making 700 something a paycheck. And that would obviously be more in today's money with, like, you know, over 30 years later. She would probably be making, she'd probably be making, like, taking home what she was thinking she was going to be making in the first place. Like, double that, like 1,400. And for a paycheck, which she gets twice a month, by the way, that was directly stated. She gets paid twice a month. Like, when I worked in fast food, I was lucky to get, like, 300 a paycheck. And that was full time, by the way. I was lucky to get that much when I worked at Wendy's. To be getting like 1,400 a paycheck, I that would be so useful for so many reasons. So practical. I would be able to, like, not just have more things that I want, but that would be so useful, especially again if you're getting it for like pretty much nothing. But I'm not going to ramble about that forever. um but yeah, most of this movie is more about her trying to take care of her siblings, make sure they're fed and everything, as well as, you know, helping them better their lives while trying to support them by getting this job and everything. And most of the film is more about this job than anything. And about her making these mistakes, you know, taking the petty cash and all. And some of the mistakes end up not being mistakes, like delegating the job to this other girl. Who, by the way, I really wish it had been confirmed by the end that she had gotten the position instead, because she so deserved it. But yeah, delegating the task to her, it's like, that's a legitimate thing people do. And in the position that Sue-Ann was in, that is absolutely something she should do. I love how the others, like, were trying to get at her for that, and Rose is just like, oh, that's so awesome, you're so good at this, because that's what you do. She did the right thing by delegating that to this other girl. Like, that just makes sense. She had so much work, that just makes sense. There's a lot of great stuff in this film, a lot of fun stuff. I like her trying to figure out the fax machine and everything, because I would not know how to do that. and various things like that. I love Kenny getting super into Julia Child and cooking and all that. That's really fun. The the argument that he and Sue Ann has that is clearly meant to be like a joke play on the idea of a married couple arguing was funny, but also really wild. It's like I'm just like watching this like why are they arguing like they're a married couple? They're siblings. Um the thing I think could have been taken out the most is Gus. That was his name, right? The creepy asshole. Yeah, this movie could have absolutely done without that. Cuz the thing is, they didn't even make him like they made him just generally scummy. They didn't make him as like terrible and evil as they could have. And he when he finds out she's 17, he is very put off by that and he seems very like repentant about it. And it's just like, well, we're supposed to forgive him because he didn't know she was underage. That doesn't make anything he did right. And mind you, the movie doesn't try to make you think that. The movie absolutely paints him in the wrong. But I just feel like you either need to paint him as more in the wrong to the point where he's like, arrested for being a sex pest, or cut him out completely. Because this kind of like half-hearted way they're doing it just feels unfortunately dismissive of this kind of thing, of workplace harassment and whatnot. And unfortunately, from the stories I've heard and everything, it's way too real. So that's what they could have been going for. It's like just how realistic it is that he'd get away with it. But that's really not satisfying for the viewer. It's really not. There was also no proper resolution regarding Brian and his sister and the entire like surprise. We're the girls we've been like talking to each other about are the same girl. It's like there was no real resolution to that at all. It felt like that was just a random plot point in there for no reason. I don't understand the point of that. Because if they had like some big revelation moment, revelatory surprise moment, then okay. It's like you do something with it. It has a conclusion. The storyline as we saw it, it's like, I guess he briefly mentioned it when talking to Sue Ann at the end, but it didn't have any real resolution. There was no, it didn't end. I'm just left kind of confused by the inclusion of that. But like I said, pretty much for every bad thing in the film, there is a good aspect to it, and it balances itself out. Like I said, I'm mixed on this film. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just kind of in the middle for me. It's one of those movies where it's like, I see the appeal. I understand why this would be a cult classic. I get it. But this isn't a movie I would go out of my way to constantly watch over and over. There's a lot of good comedies out there, especially from this time period, where it's like, oh yeah, I would absolutely watch that plenty more times. Even if not all the humor is, good. And even if some of the humor is super outdated, because it always should have been outdated, because, it's terrible and bigoted. It's like, even with stuff like that, it's like, I can usually, like, understand movies are the sign of their times and everything, and even if it was never okay, it's more understandable that way. But it's like, and this movie didn't really have too much with that. There was like some naughtiness, but nothing too bad. But yeah, this movie is very mixed for me. And there's probably plenty of stuff with the pacing of this film. There definitely is plenty of stuff I'm probably forgetting to mention. Oh yeah, don't get your dogs high. Just don't do that. Um, that's what I'm leaving you off with today. Don't get your dogs high. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.